Jeremy Whiteford, John Raleigh here. We have Lene Yeo in the house, and the reason we're here for this conversation is you came up to me, was it like 6 months ago in the gym? Mm-hmm. And you said something. What'd you say? It completely caught me out of the blue, and I'll give my background. I don't have a lot of background, aside from what you've told me in class.
I said I got my bone density to not be osteoporosis.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And past osteopenia to like a good level.
Yeah.
Which I have been working on for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
8 to 10 years.
Holy smokes. And then after 6 months of...
Probably after...
This was after you had been here about a year.
I've been here a year.
Yeah.
And then before that I'd done some weight training and CrossFit type of things. But what I didn't know 10 years ago was that not only menopause, but chemotherapy that I had 11 years ago puts your body into a menopause state, or it shuts it down. It kills everything to try to make you well.
Yeah.
And what that does to your body, it speeds up all the processes to where your bones change their density, because you aren't getting all of the hormones and the things you need to build. I'm not a doctor. I just know when I go to the doctor what they tell me I need to work on, and I try to figure out ways to improve it without drugs.
Now, so this is what I'm going to clip this on you, actually, because this is what shell shocked me. Is you come up with the story of, hey, I've improved my bone density, and we've heard this before, so that didn't quite blow my mind. I'm very happy to hear that. Like, oh, that's great. You're lifting heavy weights. You're eating quick foods. Like, I'm glad it's going in the right direction. Awesome.
Right.
What happened 10 years before that? Can you walk us through?
Yeah. So 11 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was 45 years old, and I had one child who was in first grade, and I was just like, wow. Now, my mom had the same cancer when she was 45, so I kind of thought, wow, I might have this, I might have the gene, I might have this when I'm her age. But you just don't.
So it always lingered.
Yeah, but you don't think it's going to happen to me. And when it does, well, what's the big deal? Everybody has cancer, but it's a big deal. It's scary. You don't really know what it's going to do to your body, and it's like losing control, which we're so used to being in control. I kind of equate it to being pregnant, because you lose control of your body, and another being in that case, but in this case, cancer takes over. So they tell you what to do, or they give you percentages. They don't really tell you what to do. They say, okay, here are your options, and if you do this, you have
this percent chance.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I wanted to know right away if I had the gene like my mom, and they're like, no, we need to get you healthy first, and then we'll go there.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I might make different decisions if I had all the information. So it kind of depends on. But to fast forward, I ended up having the BRCA gene, and I ended up everything, lumpectomy, chemotherapy, radiation, and then I had a hysterectomy and double mastectomy, and all of that.
Over the course of what period?
5 years. Over the course of 5 to 6 years, I had all that. And then I even had fat transfers to go back into my chest. Because then, when you have cancer, you kind of go, well, I just want to be alive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then after you're alive, you go, well, I want a quality life.
I want to be back to normal.
I want to have control of my body again. I want to look good. I want to feel good. And then they're like, well, the first thing that's going to happen, your bone density. They check your blood. They say, oh, the first place it could go is your brain. You're like,
thanks for telling me.
Yeah, I needed to know
now
that.
You want to give me all the information.
Yeah. And when they tell you have osteoporosis and you're 48 years old, you're just like, no. I've done better than that. That isn't me. So it's interesting to then go, well, now what do I do? And they're like, oh, walking, not really running. What you need some sort of pounding. You need some sort of weight. Weight. Doing weights. So I had to figure it out. I talked to enough people. You don't want to talk to everybody, because you don't want everybody to go, oh, my mom had that, or poor you, or poor you. You just don't want that. Yeah. You don't want to be. You don't want that to be your your identity.
Yeah.
In other words, you want to be a survivor, but how you get to the next level. So coming here, having people help me, like I didn't know when you have a double mastectomy, they cut through your pec muscle, I believe, to create a pocket, and you know they tell you not to move your arms, or hey, raise your arm, or
For a period of time.
for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then it's about figuring out how you get to the next level after you're back to being able to move. So what the bone density thing tells me and what my strength tells me is I'm getting back to normal, but it takes so much time. And nobody tells you what to do. Nobody, I mean, when you go to the doctor, they'll say, hey, all your blood work looks right, all this. I don't know what you're doing, but great.
But keep doing it.
Yeah.
If it's good, keep doing it.
Right, but if you go in there and you're heavier, or now that's a sign, you know, you shouldn't, you know, we don't want you to gain that much weight, or your blood looks this, or, you know, take this Boniva, or, you know, and I didn't want that. And they also take out a lot of lymph nodes in your body, and the lymph system is what keeps all the fluids flowing. And again, I'm not a doctor, but I've done a lot of lymphatic massages and things to get the lymph system flowing again. And I read one of your tips about the magnesium oil. I do that. I do.
Does it sting?
Yes, and when it does, it's healing. Like I noticed, and even Epsom salt baths. I mean, a lot of people use them to recover, but you'll heal. Like it starts to heal even if you have little cuts on your hands. If you're in the Epsom salt bath for 30 minutes, add baking soda. It helps it absorb.
What the baking soda does? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've never known that.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's a fun.
How much baking soda?
You know, I usually just
A little.
like a
It's like my
splash.
recipe.
It's like cooking. Yeah, a splash of baking soda. I use a lot of the Epsom salts, the magnesium chloride, but then after I'll even spray the magnesium oil all over under your arms, just all over, and it helps your body. And I even do it in my hair. It helps your scalp to breathe.
Duly noted.
Yeah, like if you have hard water, or depending on what products you use on your hair, it helps, and you leave it in for 30 minutes with a towel, and then wash your hair, and it helps clear out your.
I mean, here we're getting like
I was
beauty
gonna say,
tips from Lene.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yeah, so all of those things, and a lot of I do some supplements, but when I read your magnesium oil, I'm like, that's what I do. I do that.
You've been doing it a
We've
long
been
time.
Yeah.
doing that for a while.
But just learning how to get strong, you just can't do it on your own. It's so much healthier, and people helping you, and you'll tell somebody like, oh wow, I have that too, what are you doing? So sharing ideas. I used to get on an elliptical machine in my basement, and that's what I would do. But there isn't that sense of community, and the sense of helping each other and sharing stories and understanding what somebody else is going through, so that you can be there for them. I mean, they do ask you when you're going through all your appointments, do you have somebody in your life
That's going to be with you.
that's going to be with you? And John, I know you've gone through with your mom. I mean, we've all been touched by people that have gone through cancer or heart disease, or any type of an illness where you have to take control of your life. No one's going to do it for you. And you asked me one question, what do I know now that I didn't know 10 years ago?
That's where I was going to go next. So thank you. What would you tell yourself, but what would you tell that other person
I would say,
who's 43?
right, be your own
know?
advocate. Don't be afraid to go to the doctor, but know that it's about everything. It isn't just about the doctor. It isn't just about going to the gym. It isn't just about what you eat. It's about the balance of it all.
Right.
Stress, sleep. I don't think people put enough emphasis on sleep. I think it's a great thing that we just take for granted, or if you're not sleeping well, you're struggling with sleep. And magnesium oil, I think all of that, and just, I noticed your 2-hour no screen time before you go to bed, all of that enters into how you sleep, and that's what's going to make your body healthier and stronger. So I always knew I had to be my own advocate, but I didn't know to what extent. And it goes back to doctors and percentages, but they also are counting on you to do your part to make the percentage what it was. And that's what they kept giving me. Well, if you do this, you're 90% chance of having cancer again. If you do this, you're 63. If you do this, you're 5%. And I wanted 5.
Right.
Now my percentages are like everybody else's.
How many years have you been free?
11.
Oh,
11.
nice. That's
Congratulations.
No kidding.
That's amazing.
awesome. Now, my stepmom had the exact same thing. Like all the gene,
Really?
everything. Like the exact same story that you're going through. She
What
had
age?
that. She was probably 30. Well, so I was in 5th grade or 6th grade, and so she was probably. I mean, she's only 44 now. So that was. I mean.
Wow.
So she was in her like
30s.
early 30s, and had all that. And the reason I'm asking or saying this is like, as a kid, when my mom was going through that, when I was in 5th or 6th grade, I didn't necessarily comprehend it. Right? I knew something was weird. She'd come pick me up from middle school with her with no hair.
Right.
And I was like, I didn't really think anything of it. My dad shaved his head. You know, we played with a wig and everything. She was sick all the time. I didn't take it for what it was. Now she's been done and out of it for a long time now as well. But I'm curious in like Zach's perspective. Like you had
only
a first grade,
First
yeah,
grade.
first
Yeah, he was a
grade.
little kid.
But I mean, he had 5 years of that, right? So it's from a different perspective, kind of. But I'm wondering like, how did you handle it as a mom? Because I've never asked my stepmom like this. Like, how did it affect you when you were like trying to, you know,
Be positive for
be
your
positive?
child.
Well,
Yeah.
you are like, you had to be. You're literally dying inside. Like literally, you are dying inside.
And you want to be positive because you don't want them to be scared.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to put on a front.
Yeah. When I remember when we came home from the doctor and I said, well, I'm going to go have surgery and they're going to take something out of me. I didn't really want to tell him the word.
Yeah.
And he said, what is it? I go, it's going to be fine, you know. And he goes, what's it called? And I said, it's called cancer. He goes, that's bad. Cancer's bad, Mom. I go, it can be, but when you catch it early and
Take it out.
yeah, you take it out. Can I get a water too? My water.
Yeah. Where is it? Right there. Is that yours? Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Cucumber mint water.
Yeah.
Is it?
No.
No, I'm just kidding. All our podcast guests receive free cucumber mint water.
That you get
Yes.
with every podcast. So I was afraid to tell him, but when I said cancer and he said it was bad, I said, but we're gonna fix it. And we kind of went through the steps, and they do give you like little pamphlets of how to talk about it. But it was kind of fun because I went to a school and they all wanted to have me come, and they wanted to give me cards and treats. And so we tried to turn it into a healthy experience. My husband did an amazing job of keeping Zach like on the positive and let me kind of heal. I worked through the whole thing because
I was just going to ask you that. What was your balance like?
Yeah, I did. So I would have the chemo on Friday, so I had Saturday, Sunday, go to work Monday, and my work people were awesome too. It is about the community, and when you walk in here, you have those words are giant all over because it is about the community. And his classmates helped; they all brought me things, and I think he was really proud of that. He has learned probably a lot more about it than you think, and you probably did too, about your health. He is a healthy kid. And when somebody has cancer, he'll be like, how bad is it? What do they have to do? Like, he's intuitive, he gets it. And I remember, maybe he was being younger at 5th grade for you were in a whole different world.
Yeah.
He was in 1st grade.
Yeah.
Where your mom's, you know, you're more tied to that than your friends and that type of thing. So it may have been better when I say that, and because he didn't understand all the ramifications of what it could have meant. And I'd always say, look at Grandma, because my mom is 81, complete survivor, had done everything.
She's 81 right now?
81 right now.
Love it.
So she was 45, and it was kind of interesting because I didn't know how old she was until I called her the day I found out. I'm like, Mom, how old were you? She goes, I was 45. I'm like, oh. I mean, just the weird things that happen.
Yeah. Now, was she a source of hope for you?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
I did everything my mom did. Now, one thing that's interesting, what I learned about the lymph system is that back then, that many years, 40-some years ago, or 30-some years ago, they took so many more lymph nodes out of your body. I mean, she had probably 4 times of what I had taken out. I mean, all of them under our arms.
Oh my gosh.
And so she wears compression sleeves. She has to wear them all day, all night, all the time. And I just said, no, I'm not doing that. And luckily, so as time, and the other thing I told Zach was, when you're of age, because men have to worry about the gene too. So I would pass the gene to him. Your stepmom.
No, she's my stepmom, so
So but you think about what, and that's the part that breaks your heart, is that you don't want to pass that on to your child. And he said, well, when I was finally doing the double mastectomy, he said, when do I have to get tested to see if I have the gene?
Oh, really? He asked that?
Yeah.
At that young of an age?
And then that breaks your heart.
Yeah.
And I said, well, then they'll have a cure. And we've talked about that too. What are the odds, and how hard is it to find it, and can you turn off the gene? There's all that going on now too.
What triggers it? Yeah, whether you have it or not, what triggers turning it on?
Right.
So what would you, so we said going back 10 years, what would you do, let's say 20 years ago, knowing what you know now?
Knowing what I know now.
How would you try to prevent this from happening in the first place?
I don't know. I guess you could be a little more proactive and not get cancer and figure out if you had the gene before. But the insurance companies, they almost don't want you to know. They don't want to know, because then it's going to cost them more.
Right.
So I struggled. So at 26, I started having mammograms. And so every year from 26, I had a baseline. And when I found it on my own. And I went to the doctor immediately, and they tested it and said it's nothing. And
really?
Yeah, and I said, so I waited about a month, and I said to my husband, I go, this isn't nothing. I kind of believe in your gut and what you believe. I mean, not to the point of like being a hypochondriac, but I was like, there's something going on here. So I went to a surgeon, and he looked at the test results, and he said, I can biopsy this right now or tomorrow. And I went, right now.
Yeah.
And and then it was what it was, but I just had to keep digging. I had to keep saying, wait, is this right? Is this right? So 20 years ago, I was doing everything, and my doctors would say, do you want to have the test? And here's what's going to happen if you do. Here's what the insurance company. And I'm like, well, that's going to mess me up, like insurance-wise and money-wise and all. I mean, you worry about the money too. You worry about how are you going to keep making a living while you're surviving, and the world keeps going. You think it's all going to stop because you're sick.
For you?
Yeah, no, nothing
Does not
stops.
stop at all.
So yeah, I think you just have to stay on top of it and use your resources, all of them. Talk to people, listen to, and getting online, it helps a little bit. I've looked for how to improve my shoulder, pec muscles. There's nothing out there, nothing. I researched double muscle. I researched what happens when you cut a muscle. And I said to John, I go, can I rebuild those muscles? Like, is that possible? And he's like, absolutely. Can you do this? I'm like, yeah. He goes, then you can. So it's being brave enough to ask the questions and hope that people don't look at you differently, and they just know that you want to do better.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're golden. So I just say keep using all your resources.
Right, and being your own advocate.
Absolutely.
Somebody's not going to hand it to you
No.
on a silver platter.
And when they said you have the gene, here are your choices, I went, okay. So I had a 95% chance of having breast cancer again, which my mom did 5 years later, and then went through the other mastectomy. And then they said, so if you do a hysterectomy, it goes to 60-some%. And that's pretty crazy to go through too, because it takes a lot of who you are away, even though you think, oh wow, you had it. And then they said if you do the double, you'll go to 3%. And I went, that's easy.
All right, easy math.
3% sounds like good odds.
Yeah. So then I'm like anybody else. I'm not like the 90-some percentile. So yeah, it's playing the odds. If you're a gambler,
Right.
you figure out what you can handle, how far you can go, and then you hope that your significant others support that and are there for you for those decisions.
Now, kind of talking about gambling, as like, and how you said, like, it does take a little bit, it takes a piece of you, right?
Right.
It takes a piece of you.
It all does.
Now, knowing what you know, like, there's that 3%, the 65%. Some people are like, ah, man, I might just risk the 65%. Would you have risked the 65% now? Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, never.
Would you just be like, because it does take some out of you, but is it more of the fact, like, you know what? Some people might have a much harder time with that unless they have someone who said, no, hey, the 3% is better than your 65% and having a little piece of yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And some people may trade that. They may
Yeah.
say, you know, I don't feel like I would be whole unless I was whole.
Yeah.
So but I remember before when my mom was going through everything, I said, well, I don't need my breasts. I mean, I'll still survive. It's not like a leg or your heart or your brain,
Eyeball or
right. But when it happens, it's a little bit tougher decision because you are going into the hospital to have a surgery that no one's telling you have to have. It's weird calling to make the appointment to have a surgery that no one's telling you have to have.
Yeah.
But if you have it, you're probably going to live. And I'm like, awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely and when it happened, I kept thinking, how can I ever make myself as scared as I was that day? And you can't.
Why would you want to make yourself that scared? To
Not
motivate yourself, or
yeah, and to keep doing all the things that you have to do.
to stay healthy?
To stay healthy and to stay like.
Yeah.
There's healthy, but also feeling good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You still have to feel good about yourself.
Well, because things definitely switch over in your mind. Like when you talk about being that scared to make that phone call, it's like things have to change. The concept of time probably changes. You're probably viewing time in a different way. You're probably viewing health in a different way.
And it's scary.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good question. Why do I want to be that scared? I wanted to be that scared to be that motivated to pull the trigger on all the things I had to do.
Right.
Like I was like, I remember we were going to get some furniture delivered like the next week or something. And I thought, well, if I'm not alive, it doesn't matter if I get the sofa. Like, who cares?
Who cares?
You know, the car, you know, the oil's leaking or whatever, you know.
Whatever small problems.
Who cares? Like, it's hard to get to that point unless you're really at that point.
Can you still cultivate that perspective now?
It's pretty hard.
How long? So you're in that moment, and it's like the little things don't matter. I love everybody around me. Everybody's amazing. Thank you for the support. How long till that kind of you stop cherishing every moment of every day? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Did that slowly erode?
Yeah, it does, because then all the other things creep back in to your life, and you don't want to hold on to that, because the other thing is so many people are giving. You feel. You just want to be normal.
You don't want to hold on to
you
that
don't want to hold,
feeling of,
no.
like, trying to treasure every second.
No, because it's almost like a pity. I mean, you oscillate between pity and being lifted up by it. You want to lift other people up. You want to help. And that's kind of why I'm talking to you guys today. I mean, if anybody's going through anything, it doesn't even have to be just cancer. Heart disease, like knowing that you need to walk every day, or knowing that you need to lose 30 pounds, or knowing that you know, the healthier you eat so your mind is clear, so that, you know, Alzheimer's, there's just all kinds of things. And it's just about finding your path to just stay vibrant, healthy, and feel good.
Good. So you went from, you know, not worrying about the small things to the small things creeping in over time, but you look at that as more of a paradigm shift of, instead of being dependent to help others, you know, being dependable to others.
Right. Exactly.
I love that.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I think a lot of times, like, I think this is actually really good. How many times do you sit down and either remember your story or go over your story?
Yeah,
not very often. But a lot of times, like,
really,
you forget. It's in such a broad spectrum, like, big period of time. I mean, really, it's a short period of time in relation to 5 years, it's a big part of your life, but in relation to your age, it's a small part.
Absolutely.
Right? But it's good to always remind ourselves of those stories because that still happened.
Right. And I say once in a while, well, if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you do start to kind of compare and go, okay, this isn't the worst thing that's happened. I mean, when you have water in your basement or, whatever
happens.
you're like, oh, okay, I got it. No
Yeah.
problem. Now, I haven't lost that for sure.
So you still have the perspective.
Absolutely.
But you don't have the
I don't
daily,
have the fear.
Yeah.
That's the part that's gone. The fear's gone. The perspective's there. Knowing you can survive. But just know that when people are going through those things, they don't want to feel, special in a way that is negative or you feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
But empathy and understanding and just knowing that it's hard, knowing that it's a
That was actually going to be my next question. Like, yeah, you want to tell people like that are going through it what they can do, like what can you do to go through it? But there's a lot of other people that are surrounding them that have no clue on what to do to help you. Like it's like
Right.
I don't know how to.
Never been here.
I've never been here. I don't know. So then you do all these stupid things that you're not really supposed to do
Yeah.
because you're just trying to help the person. And like I don't want leave me alone, right?
Right.
So like, what would you tell all those other people like that want to help? Like, what are some? And it's going to be different for everybody. Everybody
Right.
goes through a different thing.
You're right.
But like, what are some things that people can do to help? That someone they might know is going through it. Like, what would
Yeah.
you have really appreciated or could have used or?
The things that were helpful were when somebody said, "Hey, I know my great aunt had cancer and she did great. She worked through it." Or if someone didn't do as well, don't say, "Well, my aunt 5 years later, she died." Or if people come up to you and go, "What are you gonna do?"
Oh no. Yeah.
Maybe do that at home, and then I had people go, start to cry,
Sure.
and I
Like
wasn't
you're-
crying.
I'm not dead.
Yeah,
I'm right here.
yeah. So I could say what not to do, but then like you said, Jeremy, what to do, you kind of have to know the person well
Yeah.
enough. I mean, always meals and that kind of thing helps, but
Would it have helped if someone just asked, like,
Yeah.
"Can
What-
what can I do for you?"
Yeah.
Instead of just trying to do something, what can I do for you?
yeah, I remember a couple of Brian's friends. One of them had a lawn service, and he came over and mowed our lawn, and just, just thinking if it were you, what would you want? Especially if you're friends or family, you kind of know. But yeah, I try not to make somebody more scared because they already are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
and just say I've been there, or I know it'll be all right. And telling people that they're handling things gracefully or with style, or I think that certain people have their trait, whatever that might be. Like I didn't rock the wig at all, and I took it off at work one day, and this guy that I work with he's bald, and he's like putting it on, everybody's laughing, and we're having fun with it, and those are great memories.
Yeah.
People are like, "Oh, I remember you came in and you just rocked your scarves," and I had a couple ladies knit me a lot of hats. I mean, it's just those kind of things where you just remember
Yeah.
what the little things were. It doesn't take a lot of big stuff.
Now, here's a big one. What would you like I'm trying to get into like spouse.
Yeah.
Right now, they're your biggest person in your corner, or they could be going through a whole nother scenario of events.
Yeah.
Right. That's going to be completely different. Like, kind of walk, because if my wife ended up having breast cancer, I wouldn't know what to do either. Right?
Yeah.
So like, what would you tell the spouse of the person who roughly is maybe going through?
That's tough too, because my husband's mom was going through ovarian cancer at the same time.
Oh wow.
So he had that, and then our little guy, and then me. And I think it's tough, man. It's tough because I think you take on some of the pain or the
When he has zero control.
right
Too.
over
Yeah.
any of it. I think that you just understand. understand that this is tough. You're doing your best. You aren't going to be normal. Understand that I had to learn this. This is hard. There's a new normal, and you do mourn the old normal. And I think as a spouse, you guys would mourn the old normal. And if it's a woman and it's cancer, there's a lot taken away. What I learned is there's a lot taken away from the man as well, of their wife or significant other, and that's hard. There's a mourning process for all that too. It changes so much more than what you think it changes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's understanding, compassion, empathy. Empathy is a big thing because you can't know what somebody is going through, but to try to put yourself there and go, how would that feel? And that's why, when I said earlier, I try to remember the fear, because you want to be empathetic to other people and go, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember how that felt.
No, so that's my final question for you is you have a perspective that none of us have. And you hope that nobody has that perspective.
Right.
But it's an incredibly valuable perspective because you look at the world from a different angle.
It is.
How do you teach that to others?
Wow, that's tough. I think by the things that we're talking about is that you can't really ever imagine having something that could take your life, but to live each day just as happily and smile and have balance, have people in your life. Try not to be too closed off. Understanding, like if somebody's having a bad day, like try to figure out why. Like, and that was the thing, is that somebody else is going through something difficult, and just try to be there for people.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, can we finish on that? Just be there for people. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Seriously. Thank you
really
so
is.
much for sharing your
Sure.
story. We absolutely love chatting with
Sure.
you and hearing more. And we had no idea.
Yeah.
When you came in, I mean, you're just a little spitball, and you come in and you do the work, and
We just put the lifter things in your shoes when you're squatting down.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
helps your ankles.
Yeah.
But to hear that story, I mean, that, to one, it hits us. Yes, you're taking yourself, you're improving your bone density. All your numbers are going the right direction. But
Right.
I didn't know any of the background, so it's really special for you to be able to share that story with
Sure.
us and with everybody here, the millions of people listening. But anyway, thank you, Lene Yeo.
Thank you.
Again, appreciate your time.
Thanks.